Everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be all about stats. So my stats people, this is it. Every half year and every end of the year, I do a video looking at my reading stats and just talking about it, kind of figuring out what's working for me, what's not working for me, seeing the trends so we can adjust and correct if need be, which probably will need to do that this year. And yeah, just looking at what's going well and talking about it. We are right now, as I'm filming this, the last couple of days of July. I don't think I'm going to be able to finish anything else. So let's talk about the books that I have read. So far, in 6 months, I have finished 57 books. So I did go ahead and increase my reading challenge on Goodreads to 75. Technically, I could probably put 100, but as I mentioned in my TBR, I think, no, my mid-year book freakout, I'm not increasing it to 100 because I'm planning on reading so many big books and I just don't want to stress myself. I could not take it this year, so 75 it is. If I hit more, which I probably will, good. If I just don't want to fail hitting 100 and stressing about it, so we're not doing that, but 75 would be nice. But 57 so far, very happy about it. It's almost 10 a month. That's pretty intense. As far as the amount of pages, I'll put everything on the screen, but so far, on average, the books that I have finished were about 342 pages, which is low for me. Last year, I was over 400, but if I look back at my stats, the kind of books that I read that were kind of short, first off, in January, I read the Forward collection, which were all short stories between like 30 and like 100 pages. So it makes complete sense that it screwed my average way lower, but I don't mind because it's something I wanted to read and talk about. So it's not a problem. I'm not like cheating. Not that it's cheating, you know, to each their own, but I would consider myself cheating if I were purposely trying to read short books to compensate. No, I'm perfectly okay with how things are going, at least in that area. What's interesting to look at is that for once, I am not reading 50% fantasy sci-fi. Every year so far, it's been about 50%. And right now I am at 42%, which I know it's still high, but for me it's kind of lower. And especially it's not mainly fantasy, it's mainly sci-fi, which, well, by 2 books, but still much lower than usual. And that's because I have been reading quite a few nonfiction and even contemporaries compared to usual. And I had to look back and make sure like what was going on with it. Nonfiction I'm fine with. It's just the nonfiction that I've been reading tend to be less sciencey than I usually do. And that's because I've been trying to read a lot of the popular ones / the ones that were available at my library, and some of them part of my Goodreads reading challenge. So I feel like that might have made me rate books, which we're going to see, lower than I usually do. I feel like I haven't been reading that many fantastic books. It's been really hit and miss so far. So I don't know if that's part of the reason, because if I look back, like some of the books that I've read that I'm kind of about reading was like Flowers in the Attic, but that's because it's super popular and I just wanted to know. And then I read My Dark Vanessa, which was because of kind of mistake. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't horrible, it's just that it wasn't for me. And again, another contemporary that was really popular. So I look back at that kind of stuff and kind of see why. I've also been trying to read some of the books on my shelf, like It's Kind of a Funny Story, which I had on my shelf forever. So I think that's kind of the reasons that things have been hit and miss. I haven't been buying many books this year, nor last year. I cannot wait. So I've been really focusing on trying to going through my bookshelves, reading what has been there for a while. I probably should do like a series of that. And yeah, I feel like that's kind of like if I was dying to read it and I thought I was going to give it 5 stars, I probably would have read it by now. There are some exceptions, but still. So I feel like that kind of brought my average a little down. So as far for the rest, you can see a mix of a little bit of everything, nothing too crazy, too abnormal. I have been reading a decent amount of historical fiction, but I did do that challenge where I was trying to read some of the popular ones, the ones that you guys were recommending to me. So I'm at 5 so far mid-year. That's usually what I read in a whole year. So not bad though, it's 5, it's not, you know. And right now I've been reading a lot of mystery, thriller, horror. So I'm at 12 so far for the half year. That's pretty good. Again, that's usually almost what I read in a whole year. So I'm not mad about that stat. I'm still very much in the mood to read some. I'm hoping I'm going to read a bunch of 5 stars, which hasn't happened yet. I have like 1 or 2 that I really did enjoy this year, but I mean, that's better than the last couple of years. What else? Oh, age group. Okay. This is a year where I feel like I completely neglected YA, which I'm not mad at. I feel like it's been so hit and miss, but you can look at the graph. I have only finished 3 YA books this year, like 5%. This is so low, so low. And I feel like I've been moving away from YA. I still like some. I feel like some of the ideas in YA books can be really interesting. I find them very fast-paced and engrossing, but the majority of them just don't appeal to me anymore. And I feel like I'm more and more disappointed. Once in a while, I will find one that I think is fantastic, but I feel like I was reading books, like even one of the books that I just finished was Rhythmatist by Brandon Sanderson. It's kind of a YA middle grade, to be honest. But I couldn't stop thinking how much better it would have been if it had been written like university instead of, you know, whatever school, high school this is. So, you know, as far as my average rating, it is terrible. It doesn't help that I don't tend to give a rating to nonfiction, so I feel like that kind of just mess up with my stats, but on average I'm at about 3.3 stars, which is one of the lowest one I've ever given. And I haven't been that harsh. I feel like I think I've only given 1 star to one book. So like, it's just that on average a lot of books that I've been reading were kind of meh. I did give a good amount of 2 stars, but nothing too crazy. I don't feel like I've been harsher. It's just a lot of mediocre books. And I don't know if it's because the mood, because again I've been doing a few challenges, or that, I don't know, it's just been a mediocre reading year so far. But I don't feel like I'm being harsh. It hasn't been horrible either, it's just been kind of meh. As far as authors, gender, it's been pretty average. I usually aim to read less 50% male authors because a lot of my main genres tend to be sci-fi and fantasy, like I mentioned, and the overwhelming majority of the really popular ones that you see on lists that you need to read once in your life that I've been trying to go through are white men. So I feel like I try to not favor them too much, and so far I'm at 44% men, 30% women. Then we have one non-binary and one that is both gender. So it's pretty much 50-50. It's not anything crazy. You know what? Let me include that here since we are talking about authors. I wanted to call myself out. I wanted to talk about the race of authors because I looked back in the last couple of years. Actually, I went back to look my first year, which was half a year, on Booktube. I read out of 50 books, 1 book written by an author of color, which, let's be real, I can use all the excuses that I want. Oh, I was reading what's popular on Booktube. I was buying most of my books used, so I would just bought what was there, blah, blah, blah. But 1 is just ridiculous. Since then, things have steadily improved and increased every single year. And so far this year, I'm at 30%, so 17 authors, which is much better. 1 is absolutely ridiculous. And the good news is that I'm not like forcing it or something, not that there would be anything wrong about it. I don't think it's going to be an issue to maintain that the rest of the year. But yeah, looking back, like it has increased every year, but like 2%, really? That was just ridiculously low. But it's important to notice it, so I'm not going to do that again, you know? Let's talk about the size of the books, because if you look back on my channel, I did that big book reading challenge 2 years in a row because I was trying to read more big books. And I feel like I'm neglecting them so far this year. It's not horrible because I have read like 8 books so far that are over 500 pages. So it's not low, but it's not high. But like I mentioned, I didn't increase my reading goal too high because I'm planning on reading a bunch of big books this month. I have like 5 of them or something that are on my TBR, so I should be fine before the end of the year. But yes, a little low compared to usual, which probably also plays with my average page that is 342. So nothing surprising about how the range, what it looks like. As always, mainly 300, 400 page books. That's what most books are, I feel like. So I almost forgot to look at the age when the books were published, which is always interesting and always influenced, I feel like, lately with my Goodreads reading challenge, which I tried to read the books that were published the year before so I can do my own word show for anyone that doesn't know. I think it's fun. And I also tried to read like books that were published this year because I want to try and keep up and let you know which ones were worth it, which I realized I didn't add that. Let me do that in a second. So I have read 11 books that were published this year. So I'm doing great with that. I've been keeping up with new releases, trying to let you know which ones were worth it. So far, I've just been lucky with access to the newest book at the library or ARC. So pretty good. That's 20%-ish. For 2020, so mostly for my Goodreads reading challenge, I've read 10 books. So that's pretty high, I would say. That's another like 18%. So, and you can see the rest of the stats. I've read a lot of recent books. I haven't been reading classics, and I have been missing it. I haven't missed them since I was doing my minor in French literature because I got so sick of them. But the more I think about them, the more I want to start adding them to my TBRs. And next year, like I mentioned previously, I want to do a classic challenge. So I would be reading a classic every month, and obviously you can participate on Patreon with me. So I have been in the mood. So I haven't been reading a ton, but that will probably change. Maybe not this year, although I'm planning on reading one or two. But next year, my stats should be different, which is always fun to see, like the evolution throughout the years. So the shortest book that I've read was Randomized by Andy Weir, which is 28 pages, like I was telling you, the forward collection. So short, that's definitely messing up with my stats. And the longest book was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, but I think it's going to be beaten this month by some of the big books that are on my TBR. Then my next stat is definitely my favorite to look at because I judge myself a lot on that part. And it is either if I own the books, or if it's NARC or a book from the library, and then also audiobooks, ebooks, physical books. I love judging that part. So own or borrowed or ARC, it's almost 50-50 between library and owned. And then you have that random 12% of ARC's advanced reader copies. So basically books that were sent to me, usually it's an ebook, in advance. So yes, 47% books that I owned, and then 41% from the library, which I obviously need to utilize because I pay for access to bigger ones. I try to, make sure it's worth it. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that number. That's usually what I try to aim for, like 50-50. I thought it might be different this year since, once again, I am at home not buying new books. So I thought I would focus more from library, but I think it was higher. It's higher than last year. So maybe I am increasing it. In my head just seems, well, I guess, yeah, it is a good amount of books. 41% from library is actually really good. I don't know what I'm thinking. So happy with that number. As far as the format, so if I'm reading physical books, ebooks, or audiobooks, or both, I decided to add this because I feel like I'm often flip-flopping between both, and I just wanted to be able to look at that stats too. So 26% of the books that I've read so far this year were solely physical books, which is really low. But once again, I feel like so far this year I've had like little slumps. So I feel like I went through them as audiobooks. I would go on walks and stuff and just listen to books or just do things and listen to books because I just couldn't sit down and focus. So I think that's going to change for the second half. I think that's going to increase a little bit, which once again, I feel like this month I have a lot of big books, physical books that I really want to read. So I think it's going to increase a little bit. Audiobooks, like I said, 37%. That is really high. Proportionally, I feel like compared to the other years, solely physical ebook, audiobooks, it's kind of high, I feel like. And then ebooks, 28%, which is probably the highest it has ever been, probably will ever be. I think it's because I've read so many ARCs, 7, which were all ebooks, so that's probably increasing it. Plus the forward collection, like I mentioned, it was 5 short stories that I had as ebooks. So again, I think that's playing into it. With 57 books, I feel like it's easy for stats to be all over the place. But yeah, and then both 9%, so 5 books, which that's usually my highest part between audiobooks and both. But yeah, that's interesting. So to me, what's standing out is the fact that I'm not reading a lot of fantasy, which I think will change a little bit this month. I have a few that I want to read, but I haven't been, which is weird, I haven't been that much in the mood to read fantasy. I have read some, but I have been kind of disappointed by a couple and I just haven't been feeling it. And even sci-fi, I know, even sci-fi, I haven't been crazy. I think it's just because I'm overdue to find a new series that I love. And I kind of am liking some, I'm This Is Fantasy, which I've liked, so. And I'm planning on reading more Octavia E. Butler, so maybe that's going to switch. But yeah, it's been a weird year. And yeah, hopefully more physical books because that's another thing that is kind of strange to me. So yes, my focus for the rest of the year is to maintain some of these stats. It's to read more bigger books and physical books because what the heck? Not that there's anything wrong with audiobooks. I always love them. But it's just been really... So we're aiming for more 5 stars too. That's also something I need to fix. Not that there's really anything I can do, but you know, we'll try. So yeah, kind of a weird half year, but it's interesting to look at it. Now I can kind of adjust some of these things. Let me know in the comment section if there are any of these stats that you want to discuss more, anything that is surprising to you. Do you want to share your own stats? Because I always like to know, my stats people, what is going on with you this year? How's your year going? And yeah, I need more 5-star books, damn. So that's it. Thumbs up, subscribe. I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out. And I will see you in an upcoming video very soon. Bye.